Parashat Ki Tavo, or blessings and curses. Jews are to bring their first fruits to the temple each year. Tithing crops is taken seriously. Upon entering Israel, a ceremony will reaffirm God's covenant. Secret sins are singled out. The tochaka, or rebuke. Jews will have blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience. The difference between the words we and they, just a couple letters, but it's a world of difference. The same difference like feeling like an insider and an outsider. The Parsha begins with Parashat Bikurim, the declaration of first fruits. Every year in Israel, every Jewish farmer would go to the temple in Jerusalem and say, "Thank you, God, for this magnificent promised land." And they would show their gratitude by bringing the very first crops that bloomed or that grew that year, the first fruits. And they would give the priest the first fruits and recite a couple verses, a declaration of Jewish history, words that we still say today at the Passover Seder. And while it's many verses, I'm going to condense into a few, and I want you to pay attention to the pronouns, because that tells the story itself. You shall speak up and say before the Lord your God, my father was a wandering Aramean who went down to Egypt. The Egyptians were harsh to us. The Lord took us out of Egypt and brought us to this place. So now I bring the first fruits of the ground, which you, O Lord, have given me. So on the one hand, this is Jewish history, right? Our story begins with our patriarchs, Jacob. Then we were slaves in Egypt, and then God saved us and brought us to Israel. But look at these pronouns. We see a shift from I and me to us and we, and then back to I and me, from singular to plural to singular. My story begins when my people's story began way back when, and I still have a key role to play in it today. That's the story in these verses. And this is the challenge that all rabbis and Jewish educators and really all Jewish parents face. How do we get our kids to connect to our story? For our kids to feel and understand that Jewish history is really family history. How do we convey that the story is alive and vibrant and ongoing, and that they are authors in this book? They are actors in this play. There's no silver bullet, but if there is, I think it's going to Israel. Because there you just sense it, you feel it, you see it, you hear it, that this Jewish story is amazing. It's been going on for so long and it has such momentum and energy and electricity to go on in unpredictable, amazing ways. And it's in our hands. We get to shape it. And the story of Israel, you can't tell it without the names we know from our history books. From prime ministers and soldiers to Zionist leaders to athletes and so many more. But equally so, the story of Israel and Jewish history is the story of contributions made by millions more whose names we don't know, who made contributions large and small to the Jewish state. Equally so. And we can't all be prime minister, but we can all be that person who makes a small but tangible difference in our story. Appropriately, the Parsha describes a journey to Jerusalem, Israel, the very same plot of earth, where each farmer affirmed this aspiration. I wish us much luck in our journey. And when we as a people, our adults and our children, use the words we and me to talk about Jewish history, and then we'll be really successful.